Hi everyone, welcome back. Now, I want to talk to you today about something not many guitarists know about, which is the minor version of the caged system. Now, for those of you that watched one of my previous videos, you'll know there's a thing called the caged system, which is a way of applying major scales and soloing in major keys across the whole neck in any key, using chords as kind of landmarks to help you find where you are. It just so happens there's a minor key, and the good news is it uses all the same scale patterns, so you don't need to learn any new ones, but they are in a different place and they are over different chord landmarks. So first of all, let's recap on the major caged system very quickly, and then we'll have a look at the minor caged system. So what we're going to do is we're going to recap on the major caged system very quickly. Now, we did it in C in a previous video, but let's do it in the key of D major because the caged system works in any key. And the great thing about doing the key of D is our first chord shape, our C-shaped bar chord, is right down here, and then we can work our way up the neck as we go. So here's our C-shaped bar chord, and there's a scale pattern associated with that. And it's this one. And there's our root note. That's a chord D, and that was a D major scale pattern. Here's an A-shaped chord of D, and here's the pattern associated with that. Here is the G shape chord of D. It's not very nice. I don't really want to play it. I'm going to cheat a little bit and play it like that. As long as I can see it in my mind, that's all I need to know there's a scale pattern that fits over it, this one. Back to the root note. We have the E shape chord of D and the pattern that fits over it. Finally, we've got the D-shaped chord of D, which isn't very nice, but as long as we know it's there, we can play the associated pattern, which is this. Back to the root note. So the minor version. Well, let's start with this for a second. We had this C-shaped chord here. You can see the resemblance to C. In fact, you can see it even more so if I slide it off the end of the neck. That's a C-shaped chord. Now, we also know from a previous video that we can flatten our major third. This is a major third, this distance here. We can flatten that note to get a minor interval. So we've got this. But unfortunately, I've got another third here and I've run out of fingers. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to play this shape here, which is horrible, and it's hurting my fingers. So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to leave this note completely and just play a little D minor triad. Okay, that's our first minor chord we're going to look at. The next minor chord we're going to look at is one we're probably more familiar with. So from this note here, I'm going to put my index finger there. This is a D, and here's a D minor chord using an A minor shaped bar chord. So the A minor shaped chord, the reason this is minor, by the way, is originally we had this in our major caged chord, and our third is here on the B string. If I flatten it back to here, I've got my minor chord. I've got a root note here where pink is, and I'm going to use that as my, one of my root notes for the next chord, which is a horrible G minor shape, which is 10, 8, 7, 7. I'm not going to play any other notes. That will do. I don't really want to play this at all. I'd rather play a D minor somewhere else, like that or that or that. But as long as I know it's there, I know there's an associated pattern that goes with it, which we'll look at in a second. Then we've got the familiar E minor shaped bar chord. So this is a D minor using an E minor shape. And finally, we've got a D minor chord, which we can play as a bar chord like this. This is a D minor shape of D minor. Again, not very nice. It's not a chord I choose to play, but knowing it's there is enough to know there's an associated pattern that fits over it. So here are our associated shapes, starting with this horrible D minor chord here. This little D minor triad has a pattern you might be familiar with. It looks like this. Okay, so I went 3, 5, 6, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 3, 5, 6, 3, 5, 6. In reverse, 6, 5, 3, 6, 5, 3, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3, 6, 5, 3. And it sounds resolved on this root note of D right here. If I have an A minor shaped bar chord, I've got this pattern that fits over it, which again should be familiar if you know the major cage system. And that was 5, 6, 8. Root note 5, 7, 8. On the D string 5, 7, 8. On the G string 5, 7. On the B string 5, 6, 8. And the same on the E string. In reverse 8, 6, 5. On the B 8, 6, 5. On the G 7, 5. On the D string 8, 7, 5. Same on the A string. On the low E string 8, 6, 5. Okay, now we've got that weird, well, it's not really a G shape, is it? But we could call it a G minor shape because we've taken a G chord, flattened our third, and we've got this weird shape here. This is our scale pattern that fits over this. Back to our root note. Moving to our more familiar D minor chord. By the way, here's a D major. I flatten this third here, back to there, and I've got my D minor, and the scale pattern is this is a nice one because it actually begins and ends on the root note in a minor key. We've got 10, 12, 13. Same again on the A, 10, 12, 13. Then 10, 12 on the D string. On the G string, 9, 10, 12. On the B string, 10, 11, 13. And on the top E, 10, 12, 13. In reverse, 13, 12, 10, 13, 11, 10, 12, 10, 9 on the G, 12, 10 on the D, and on the A string, 13, 12, 10, same on the low E string. Finally, we've got this awkward D minor shape. I don't really want to play it, but I know it's there, and therefore I know there's a scale pattern associated with it, which looks like this. Played this 12, 13, 15. Same on the A string, 12, 13, 15. 12, 14, 15 on the D string. Same on the G. Then 13, 15. And then 12, 13, 15. In reverse, 15, 13, 12. B string, 15, 13. G string, 15, 14, 12. Same on the D. On the A string, 15, 13, 12. Same on the E. Sounds resolved on this D or this D here because they are our root notes. Now that was a lot of information to take in and I went through it quickly because there's a lot to cover. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick cheat, a shortcut to get playing quicker. I would start with in the minor keys with the chord shapes you're most familiar with. So the two main minor bar chords we use are the A minor shape. So that's an A minor shaped chord of D minor. There's my D there. And the E minor shape chord, again this is a D minor but using an E minor shape. There's my root note. Okay, so if you learn those two scale patterns first, if you want, I find they're the easiest to apply. This one's particularly useful because if I play the D natural minor scale, it fits over this. It starts and finishes on the root note, as does the D minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, that's hiding within that shape. You could even play the pentatonic scale in a solo and then add to it some of those missing notes. So, pentatonic, extra notes, back to pentatonic. Same with this chord. If I play a D natural minor scale over this, there's also a pentatonic scale that fits that, which is pattern 4. So I can mess around with pattern 4 of the pentatonic scale and just add some of those missing notes to it. So for example, pattern 4, extra note, and so on. Now from there you can add to that some of those less familiar minor shapes, and of course all the patterns kind of join together. There's these kind of overlaps, and if you're really familiar with the major cage system, which you probably want to start with, you'll be familiar with how they kind of join together. So you can kind of play this way rather than just in boxes this way. So for example, in D minor, I could be playing over our shape here and slide over to the A minor shape, and then I could maybe move to the next one, and then to the next one, and so on. Just keep moving up and down the neck. Finally, let's look at what just happened there. So we had a D natural minor scale that we were working with. And when you compare that, as we always do, to a parallel major key, or major scale, you will notice there's some changes. We've actually flattened the third note. So the key of D major would have an F sharp. The D natural minor scale has an F. So we flatten that third note. If you look at the sixth note of our D major scale, the D natural minor scale has a flattened sixth, a B flat. The seventh note of the D major scale should be C sharp, and we flattened it to make a C. Now the reason this is important is because basically one of the characteristics of a minor scale is the flattened third, and also the flattened seventh. This is the interesting one here. This is a really dark sounding note, very sad sounding. People think that the flat 3 is the saddest note. It's kind of serious, but it's this one here that really makes a scale sound dark. Now, if you have a natural 6 here, you've got something called the Dorian scale, which is coming up in a future video. And just making that a natural 6 gives you a much lighter sound. It's got the minor third and the minor seventh, but it's not got that dark flattened sixth. So this is kind of useful to know. If you're writing a song and you want it to sound sad, a natural minor scale is a good way to go. Anyway, I hope this was useful to you. If so, please click like and subscribe. Thank you.